Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I saw someone on our board call that your power pause, you're asserting your dominance over me by making me wait, I guess. I'm not sure. I cared for that description, but I did think it was an interesting way to describe what has become a bizarrely signature moment on this podcast, the one moment where neither of us is talking.
It's the best moment of the show. I saw that post and I was thinking about merchandising and like power paws, like mittens. Like people could listen to wear their power paws while they listen to the show. And be like, rawr.
I don't hate it. It's now I'm thinking of the Bernie Sanders meme, like Bernie with Buckeye Weekly meme, mittens. Yeah, I don't know. That's
please, Tom. No politics.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. My mind did not immediately go to mittens there, but
see, that's the difference between you and me. When people talk about anything, it's pretty much like, how can I incorporate this to making my hands warmer?
That's I'm thinking we print up T-shirts, but it's just a plain T-shirt because it's you not saying anything, just no words on the front. That's the T-shirt. I'm thinking we'll sell millions.
You know what? The problem with that is it's already been stolen. Cat's already out of the bag, unfortunately, on that one. Tom, we are here to finish up our listener questions from last week, and we've got a few there, and so I'm looking forward to increasing our conversation about spring ball going on as the Buckeyes now are in the padded realm of spring practice, and I believe they are scrimmaging on Saturday a little bit. So we're getting into not the deep end of it yet, but waist deep at this point.
Yeah, this weekend is practice number 5, so that will be a third of the way through spring ball, which is weird because spring ball always goes so quickly because it's you feel like, well, you have the 2 practices and then there's that week off and it's like, oh, this is going to take forever. And then all of a sudden a week later, you're a third of the way through. It's like, what? How'd that happen? And the spring game's 3 weeks away now. So yeah, we're getting fairly close. You don't have spring ball so weird because you don't have like the fall camp where it feels like it drags on forever because you're waiting for the start of the actual season. There's not like some big like pot of gold at the end of the rainbow with spring ball. It's just like, oh, and now there's no football for like 3 months. Cool. That's a thing. Okay. So, you're not looking forward to it. So it ends up kind of going a little quicker than you'd think. But yeah, we're further in than you'd suspect.
So we are going to, do you want to just get ready, get right into it with these listener questions?
We should. Yeah, we got some good listener questions. First one from Shane Falco. Given the numbers at linebacker for 2 linebacker spots and the lack of depth at tight end, especially blocking tight end, at what point is Cade Stover needed more and more likely to get more meaningful playing time at tight end than on defense?
Tom, you know how I know this is the year of the tight end at Ohio State?
Is it because the first 2 questions we're answering today are both about the tight end?
A little bit. There's so much concern about tight end at Ohio State, and there's been, there's talk from fans, put Cade Stover there, put him back. And it's refreshing. We are always talking about the importance of the tight end. Ryan Day said, I think this past week when asked, like, hey, could you ever go 4 wide receivers? And he's like, no, not really, because we can't run the ball. Like, you have to be way more creative running the ball when you do that, and then how you're going to run it. So they don't plan on doing that. They always want a tight end on the field. And maybe I missed something that Ryan Day said this week that has created so much concern about the tight ends, because yes, I mean, nothing has changed. There are always going to be a new starter and new depth having to be created. But I do get the concern in terms of, like, Cade Stover is a known quantity in a sense, but really, like, he wasn't much of a pass catching threat. I don't think they will move him this spring, moving back to defense or to offense. I think if things aren't going well, how far into fall camp would it take before, would it be like immediately, or do you think they will see enough in spring to where like, okay, I think we're going to be okay in fall camp. But if things don't go well in fall camp, like how long do you wait at that point? And again, this is supposed to be Cade Stover's decision as well. But ultimately, if he's not finding a home on defense, or if he's not like A1A somewhere on defense,
Beachfront Avenue. Sorry, trying to delete it. Sorry.
But don't you have to, like, at some point you've got to weigh the need, right?
You have to weigh the need, I guess, but I think I come at this from a different perspective, which is I think Cade Stover might be pretty good on defense this year, and I think he might find a home on defense, and I think that this might be well, why don't you just move Zach Harrison to tight end? Like, well, he's actually pretty important on the defense. I think you might run into that with Cade Stover this year. That's just my thought. You've kind of heard some things that would lead you to believe that maybe there's some good stuff going on there, and maybe he might be a good fit for some of the stuff that Jim Knowles ultimately wants to do with the Ohio State defense. Not Jim Phillips; he's the ACC commissioner. Jim Knowles. I don't know how my brain works; it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think they've got enough at tight end where they have enough pieces that even if there isn't one person who does everything at a tremendous level, they didn't really have everyone who did everything at a tremendous level last year either. Like Jeremy Ruckert was a very good receiver. He was not the single greatest blocker in the history of college football. You had some pretty good blocking tight ends. They weren't tremendous in the pass game. Like you can kind of piece that position together. Brian Day talked this week about the fact that they want to have a tight end on the field. They really need to have a tight end on the field in terms of being able to do what they want to do in the run game. So you're not going to see a lot of 10 personnel and one running back and 4 wide receivers or something. You're going to see tight ends on the field. They have, between the H-back Mitch Rossi type tight ends and Joe Royer, who you're hearing positive reports about Joe Royer. Bennett Christian is someone who they think maybe can be something of an immediate impact guy. You've got G. Scott, and you get all these different people that you're going to be able to piece together a tight end position. And if you don't run as many 2 tight end sets, like, okay, that's fine. But I don't think they're going to be so desperate at tight end that they don't have anyone to play the position that they're going to have to move Stover back to tight end.
The Jim Phillips quirk reminded me, like, I think it was last year, the year before, where Kevin Wilson would get mentioned as Big Ten commissioner. Like when people are angry tweeting about Kevin Warren and they'd write out Kevin Wilson instead, and he'd have to be like, that's not me. So yeah, a lot of Ohio State assistants running major organizations apparently as well, Tom.
Yeah, it's they let anyone run the league these days is my takeaway. Yeah.
Spot on. Next one.
We got a bunch from Ari Phillips. He had one about the tight ends that we're going to, next one is from at VW Chad W, whose question we're going to answer in lieu of the first one from Ari Phillips. Sorry, skipped too far down the rundown here. Sounds like the tight end room has the most glaring opportunity for growth. It doesn't sound like G. Scott is going to be the guy, mainly because of being a little undersized. Is there anyone who could emerge and wow the team, even if it's mainly from the blocking aspect, or is it portal time? I feel like I kind of gave my answer there, but your thoughts?
Well, and Kevin Wilson said a few weeks back that it really takes like 2 years for a guy to be ready at tight end and to be like fully a tight end. And so G. Scott is still in the process of that. Still, I expect him to play this year, but I think it's right now it's going to be Joe Royer and Mitch Rossi doing the second tight end H-back type of stuff. And then they'll have areas of work for G. Scott, maybe Sam Hart, Bennett Christian, as you mentioned. I'm with you. I think there's enough there that you don't have to panic and move Cade Stover back, because I don't know how much different Cade Stover is than any of the other guys, other than he has experience. And this is why you recruit guys. Like, this is why you went out and got them. It's 2-step in. And so if you don't let them do that, then what did you recruit them for? Now, if they can't, then that's a whole other issue that they'll certainly know by the end of the spring whether they are in trouble. And we know they tried to go to the portal for the Oklahoma tight end Austin Stogner in the offseason. It will be interesting to see if they go back to that, because there will be transfers after spring. Now, after spring, however, it's usually players who have found out that they are not at the top of the depth chart. So it might be difficult for them to find somebody that can play, but then you also sometimes get a Jonah Jackson where it's, I'm staying until I graduate and then I'll leave. But when did that Jonah Jackson thing happen? Did that happen after spring or did it before, but he waited?
I think he had happened before, but he didn't show up until the summer, I think, because he wasn't there that spring, I don't believe. I think he was graduating from Rutgers in April or May or whenever it was.
I think he took winter visits, maybe. Is that what it was?
Yeah, and had decided he was going to leave, but actually finished his academic time at Rutgers before leaving. I think that's right. But yeah, that's kind of the type of player that you would have to be hoping for at this point, because I don't have anyone specific in mind when I say this, but the tight end who is at Western Michigan, who has realized he is by far the best player on the team and probably could have been a Power 5 player. Like, that dude doesn't need spring ball to figure that out. He figured that out last fall. That kind of guy, or, the Iowa State whatever, or the West Virginia whatever, like that guy already knows that. He didn't need spring ball to figure that out. Spring ball is when you get the guys entering the portal that have what we call the spring awakening, which is, I've been here 3 years and I'm still like third on the depth chart at my position, and I don't seem to be moving up, and the guy behind me might be pretty good, and I might not get to play here. Like, that's typically the type of player you tend to see hitting the portal after spring ball. So yeah, that is not the type of player who's necessarily going to help Ohio State. There are exceptions. You can have guys who, maybe do fit the Ohio State mold. It's not impossible, but that, the vast majority of guys who hit the portal this time of year are not going to be people who would be like massive upgrades from the talent level at Ohio State. That's not who's here this time of year. So here we go. Now we're getting into Ari Phillips. He sent us 5 questions. One of them was kind of impossible, and one of them was about tight ends, so we're going to skip those 2. But here's the first one from him. How is Josh Proctor progressing toward being the starting free safety / eraser? He is still kind of limited in practice. He's not 100% full go yet. They're sort of working him back slowly. I don't think there's any concern about his availability for the fall, but he started the spring just, a little bit limited. He was working, but not out there during all the drills necessarily. So we're going to kind of grade him incomplete there. Next one. Who is the breakout player of the week on defense? Tony, do you have an answer there?
Well, gosh, this was asked like 2 weeks ago. They were on vacation, so nobody. But no, I think the guy I would choose is maybe somebody that Ryan Day talked about on Monday, which leads into the final question, which, if we just want to go straight to that one.
Let's read the last one. The progress of Tyleik Williams in effort per play and progress over last year. He should be a dominating force in the middle of his effort per play improves.
You have answered your own question, sir. Basically, that's my answer. And Ryan Day said that, and I wrote about it on Thursday, that last year, why didn't Tyleik Williams play more? And it's like, because he could only go a couple plays at a time. And as he's improved his stamina, they'll obviously plan on him playing more. And he had a good week, had a good practice on Thursday again, or Wednesday again, rather. And that's just a matter of being able to play after play. The great ones, as Ryan Day said, can go snap, 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 and handle the run and being pounded. And then also now you've got to rush the passer, which can sometimes take more out of you. And then you got to come back and stop the run. And you don't have to come out after 2 or 3 plays. And that's what Tyleik Williams is trying to get to. And I think I saw him quote from Tyleik Williams on Wednesday saying that last year he was too fat. Like, he was too heavy last year. And Ryan Day said he's changed his body. And so this is a guy finished second on the team in sacks behind Haskell Garrett, 1/2 sack behind Haskell Garrett. Haskell Garrett had over 200 more snaps than Tyleik Williams last year. Finished, I think, 1/2 tackle for loss behind Haskell Garrett and Zach Harrison last year. Zach Harrison had 300 more snaps than Tyleik Williams. So now imagine another 100, 150 snaps for Tyleik Williams this coming season. And I'm not going to project double-digit tackles for loss or anything like that, but I also am not going to be shocked at all if it happens.
And, one of the other interesting pieces on that defensive line is another guy who got talked up a bunch by Ryan Day on Monday. And I think we've talked about him a little bit this week already as well. So if you are sick of hearing us talk up young Ohio State defensive linemen friends, I'm sorry, this is not the week for you. But JT Tuimoloau came in last year with like no preparation at all. He walked onto campus and basically went straight into fall camp and then was on the field in game 1 and continued to see his his role on the team grow throughout the course of the season. And now he gets to go through the full offseason and the winter workouts and spring ball and summer camp and all that stuff. He could be a real breakout player this year. Neither he nor Williams were exactly like non-factors last year. They both had significant roles on the team in certain spots. But I think you're going to maybe see a significant step forward for those guys. The interesting piece of that is if you've got Tyleik Williams next to JT Tuimoloau, you can't double everyone. So one of those guys is not going to get doubled. You would think you're going to have to double Tyleik Williams. I mean, he's going to be, but you can't very well leave JT Tuimoloau coming off the edge, off of against tackle. That's just when you start getting multiple guys who are potential breakout players who could have multiple years left toward Ohio State. That's where you start giving offenses real problems because you can't double everyone. That's just a numbers game. So that's where I think you're going to see one or both of those guys as a real significant breakout player this year. Those would probably be my two picks on defense right now, at least. And I think, the fact that, one of them is going to do it because the other one is helping open things up for them. So that I think is going to be a real interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me if those two and Jack Sawyer and Mike Hall are the greatest defensive line recruiting class in Ohio State history. And it's like, well, I can't answer that off the top of my head, but it is something that I do want you to look into as like I told him, like a summer research project when you're looking for stuff to do. And it's, go back and look. And he mentioned Mike Vrabel, Matt Finkus, and Luke Fickell all coming into the same class. And that's certainly, when you find a 4-year starter at nose tackle and Luke Fickell and, two of the best sackers ever, that's pretty significant. And there's no reason to anoint them now, but nobody will be surprised if they end up actually earning that nod.
And Mike Hall, I think, is someone who he came in last summer as well. He was not there last spring. You wonder if he had been there last spring, if he was someone who might have been more of an impact last fall, because he was someone all the way through the recruiting process. And even last year, you just kept hearing from people around the program, like, this kid's really good. Like, this kid is, and I mean, our recruiting guys, I remember Mark and Bill talking about, like, this guy is a really good prospect. And people just kind of are sleeping on him because he committed kind of early and he was an Ohio guy and he wasn't a 5-star. I think he was a top 100, like almost maybe top 50 kid, but wasn't, the super splashy 5-star all everything. You've got Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau in a class and it's like, well, oh yeah. And then there's the other two guys. Well, the other two guys are pretty good too. So yeah, he's someone who I would put on the list as well of potential breakout folks this year. And so now you've got 3/4 of the defensive line going, and the fourth spot, we'll see. We'll see where how the fourth spot goes. But I think you've got a decent chance of, it's not out of the realm of possibility that you go 4 for 4 on potential breakouts there on the defensive line from second-year guys. Next one from R. Korch. Who will benefit the most from the new coaching staff on defense? And similar question, who needs the most reps during spring? Said otherwise, who do you think makes the biggest progress this offseason? So I guess that's sort of the same question, but sort of different question. So I'm not sure which of those you want to answer or how.
Well, one guy you already mentioned, Cade Stover,
mm-hmm.
I think can benefit from the Jim Knowles defense because this is a defense where if you can do something specific, Jim Knowles will be able to use that. And he's looking for guys and ways to use them and be a multiple defense in terms of different tasks for different guys. I think Court Williams is another guy that could fit into that. And he came to Ohio State to play the bullet. And so when the bullet disappeared last year, it's like, well, now what do you do? And maybe now Jim Knowles will have something for him. And certainly getting him reps this spring is huge. And him and Ronnie Hickman being able to take those reps and kind of Josh Proctor not having those numbers, those reps, I think helps Court Williams. Not that Court Williams is taking Josh Proctor's reps, but he's taking Ronnie Hickman's reps, who's Ronnie Hickman is taking Josh Proctor's reps. So it's like, there's absences that guys can step into. And I think that has helped Court Williams get ready for what his ultimate role will be. And I don't know what that is. And that's, to me, still one of the questions about safety. And maybe Josh Proctor ends up being the odd man out. If Ronnie Hickman can play free safety and he can play that safety position like they want it, that this is like the being Wally pipped, I guess, at that point. Most progress in the offseason. Yeah, Tom. I mean, that's a lot of guys.
It's a second-year player, because that feels like that's always the answer. It's a second-year player because you get the first year and everyone's, everyone say it with me. You're drinking through a fire hose. Hey, okay, we all said the cliche together. Great job, everyone. That first year, it's just like everything's a little overwhelming. The second year, like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. Now I can really focus on refining my technique and getting better. And I've had a year in the strength program and all that kind of stuff. The second-year guys are the guys who are the people who make the most progress. So instead of just going, reciting the same four names on the defensive line that we just talked about, and Tony talked about the safeties, so I'll talk about linebackers now. I think this is a big year for Steel Chambers, because Steel Chambers got thrown out there in last summer and had a really good year, but I think he's still like just learning things, and he's now working with Jim Knowles, who is a fantastic teacher, a linebacker specialist, knows how to feature the linebackers in a way that the linebackers probably weren't featured last year. I think this is a very, very big year in terms of Steel Chambers development. You could, say the same thing about Chip Trainum coming over in terms of being a first-year linebacker. Cody Simon probably makes some pretty significant progress being healthy this year. I mean, I think there's a lot of names in that room. And, I think we are contractually obligated to talk about CJ Hicks, and CJ Hicks is, I think, going to be a tremendous player down the road. I think this is his fire hose year. So you're probably not, going to see incredible stuff from him just from the jump, because this is you're learning a new defense. You're getting up to speed with the whole college thing, all that stuff. But there's a lot of guys in that linebacker room who I think might kind of fit that answer as well.
Yeah, I like the Steel Chambers thing, and Cody Simon just being healthy is one thing that people really have to watch out for.
Yep. So next one from the great Mark Givler. Who wins this year's Bam Childress Trophy for spring game excellence? Tony, we were talking before the show. You had a great answer for this one, I think.
Well, it's Jack Sawyer is defending his crown from last year, where he had 6 sacks, I think it was, and they were all very, very legitimate. He tapped the quarterback exactly as you need to on a defense, as a defensive end, and knocked them to the ground figuratively. So I think he's another guy that this is his opportunity. You don't have a lot of two-peats. Bam Childress, obviously. Michael Thomas maybe was a repeat winner. Tom, with Jack Sawyer being the favorite, maybe, I'm going to throw out Jaden Ballard here. Keep an eye out for Jaden Ballard. He's gonna be split up. He's got good quarterbacks. That's one thing that you need. You need good quarterbacks on both sides, so that both sets of receivers have an opportunity. So Jaden Ballard, I'm thinking upwards of, I'll say 5 catches, 125 yards, 2 touchdowns, Tom. Did I take your guy? I'm sorry.
I can't believe that you took my guy. I'm so annoyed. Yes, Jaden Ballard is the correct answer here. I was thinking through, the second year guys maybe who are the potential breakout guys, and Evan Pryor is someone who I think we're maybe expecting to get a lot of opportunities this year, and especially in the spring game, but a lot more opportunities. You keep hearing positive things about him, but running back isn't generally a position where you see big numbers. Like no one ever runs the ball well in a spring game because of the two-hand touch basically rules that they have in place. You might see him out of the backfield some, so maybe you get a little bit of him. But yeah, Jaden Ballard fits to the T the model of the guy who is a huge breakout. And I don't know that he's necessarily the Bam Childress model in every way, because I think he's probably going to be someone who has an impact this fall as well. But yeah, he's someone who you can just see. You've got all the strong-armed quarterbacks, and everyone wants to show off their arm. And you've got you're going to have the safeties, and there's going to, I'm sure, be some confusion on the back end of the defense as you're still trying to get stuff implemented. Quarterbacks are going to want to show off their arms. Tony, how do you show off your arm? Tony, you throw the ball real deep. Who's going to run a 9 route real well for Ohio State this year? It's Jaden Ballard. So yes, Jaden Ballard is your answer. I am deeply annoyed that Tony beat me there.
Yeah, and especially when they get matched up with the walk-on corners who are like this, come on. And not that they aren't very talented cornerbacks, but there's advantages and there's disadvantages on the football field, and sometimes they find those advantages pretty quickly when they're looking to show off their arm.
Yeah, I mean, go back to Justin Fields' first spring game at Ohio State, and he threw a 99-yard touchdown pass to Ben Victor, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he was covered by one of the walk-on corners. And yeah, like you're gonna see one of those this year. There is way too much talent in that Ohio State wide receiver room, and way too many big-armed quarterbacks. So yeah, it's a wide receiver, and yes, that's a good answer for sure. Last one from Buckeye Rob. Regarding spring ball, what is the thought process of the coaches to have spring ball split with a few practices, then the guys leave on spring break, then come back for the rest of spring ball? Why do they do this as opposed to just starting right after spring break concludes?
Tom, this one's on you. No, this is something they started with the semesters when I don't know if it started when Ohio State went from quarters to semesters, but this has been going on for I don't know, 5 or 6 years now. And really, the first two practices are, as Ryan Day called them, OTAs, which just, nothing serious. And then you get back from spring break and you just go. I don't know why they choose to do it that way, other than the fact that they don't want spring going too far into April, maybe. And it's always ended in mid to it's either in mid-April or the week after mid-April. It's never really gone too far beyond that. And really, if they don't start when they do, then it would go, a week extra. And so, I don't know, other than the fact that once they get back from spring break, it's like, this is all serious. That's kind of maybe how I view it. Like, I think you've called it, Tom, the first two practices are like the syllabus class, and then you get back and it's time to get going.
Yeah. And, I think you also don't, based on when teams typically have spring games, Ohio State is actually kind of on the late end of that. A lot of the Southern teams are having them in, late March. I think Michigan's is always a week or two before Ohio State's. Michigan's usually like kind of early April. There's probably a little bit of strategy in terms of spacing things out, because you can get a bunch of visits. That probably doesn't hurt to have, if your spring game's on a different week than others. And it makes a little bit of sense. Like, this has been a very intentional thing. This is not like a coincidental thing. This has been a very intentional thing for Ohio State. So I think they've seen a benefit to it, where you kind of, you get in, you're thinking a little bit about football, but you're not too deep into anything. And then you go to a week off, and then you come back, and then it's like, all right, now it's time to get real. There's the second class of the semester, and now the teacher is actually doing stuff, and it's not going to be a 15-minute class. You're there to learn. That's sort of when it starts. So I think it's probably some combination of all of those things. And, I think Brian Day's talked about it a little bit, but, I don't think there has been an extremely specific answer as to this is the exact, this study written in 1972 said that yada, yada, yada. But that it just seems like that's something that just schedule-wise has worked out pretty well for them. I feel like, they generally come out of spring ball feeling like they got what they wanted to out of spring ball. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I like the idea that you get more, you spread it out more. That allows for more visits, and not, people can't visit when spring ball isn't going on, but it's an interesting thought as well. Anything else, Tom, before we get out of here?
Tony? I think we're done.
No, Tom, you can't. No power pause from you. Okay. We don't, that's not part of the show. It's never been part of the show. That's not what the show is about. All right. So don't ever try that again. Tom, I'm going to ask you one more time. Anything else before we go?
Nope.
No, that's right. No. Thank you, Tom, for your quick answer. And that will do it for this episode. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and we will talk to you guys next week.